Good morning, hello, wherever you are in the world. This is The Full Stop, and we are recording a video that follows off the back of our latest episode, which is Do Men Need a Community? Which featured Russell, Agnes, Don and Michael talking primarily about the clan of brothers, but also about the idea and the concept of a community and communities that can come off the back of other conversations as well. And I think it's an area that our listeners, our listeners, will be very much aware of if you've looked for groups and for support yourself, whether that's through us or independently looking on Google and other resources as well.
It was quite an emotional episode for me.
Yeah.
I always get choked up when near the end, when I think we called it a loving when we had Sarah and Judy on the show, but when the guys start talking about how the group has helped them, that always gets me, because not that I did much. I just put Andy and I just put a group together, and that was it. And sometimes there's nothing goes on in it, but I think that's the secret. I think that's the guys they just have somewhere to go when they need to.
We were talking earlier today, weren't we, about like launch the damn thing, and not having that perfection and not worrying about something too much. Just do it. And usually you'll find that all the pieces fall into place. And the more that people engage with it, then the more you find that someone will come along and go, yeah, I can do that, or I know this, or you learn something from the process of doing whatever it is that you're working on.
No, that's right. The way I try and explain to some people when they say, oh, what'd you do? What's it like? So, well, look, there's no instruction book. There's no uni course I can take to do this. It's just a group of people coming together, finding comfort in the fact that they found somewhere to belong. And so that always gets me. Always gets me. I'm just surprised I didn't lose it when I was on that TV show as well, because I thought, I did warn the producer. I said, look, I might lose it, but it's okay. It's all right. It's part of my growth. I see that as, but luckily, I don't say luckily, but I didn't lose it, which was come close. But I see that, I think that's what not only this podcast, but the Clan of Brothers helped me do, is help me feel comfortable with that emotion that sits there, if that makes sense. It's we've got a great bunch of guys, Don, Russell and Agnes. I mean, we got three continents, three different points of view, three different ways of living, three different cultures. It was brilliant. And if anyone's listened to that and lives in Southern California and can help Don out with finding other men in Southern California, that would be great. So let us know, and we can get in contact with Don and give him the information. But you must listen to the podcast.
And that's really important. It's a really good opportunity to grow something from the Clan of Brothers. It becomes sort of bigger and keeps going. Yeah, it's really exciting.
So from a female's perspective, I know, Sarah, you wasn't there because you were ill. But Berenice, from a female's perspective, what is it? What does sitting in a conversation like that do for you?
It gives me hope, actually, an awful lot of hope, because obviously not part of the Clan of Brothers. So it was meeting three people for the first time that I hadn't met before. And I think one of the things that's come out of the back of this shared space that we're all in is how cathartic it must be to have a space in which to talk, even if it's a different conversation to perhaps ones that maybe, I sort of say this loosely, women have, but I actually don't necessarily agree with that. I don't feel that men and there's a whole narrative, isn't there? I think about differences of conversation between men and women and childlessness, and I don't kind of go with that controversially. Maybe I don't, because I think that we're all individuals, and gender, yes, but then gosh, there's so many different forms and different diversities within in life that it's not quite so simple as this is a conversation, that's a conversation, these are the gender narratives around it. So much as I think that almost I wonder if men are told that historically you don't talk about these things and you don't talk about feelings, and so you kind of subscribe to that kind of like this inbuilt historical narrative that happens, and then you have something like a conversation that Don, Russell, Agnes, you and I had, and you think it's so refreshing and so enabling, empowering. There are so many words I run out of kind of superlatives for it, because it's bucking a trend completely, and in a way it's kind of like, you know, up yours to the patriarchy and saying we talk like this and this is what we talk about, and actually isn't it fantastic that is an opportunity, and the podcast, the Full Stop, can be that voice. I think that's wonderful, and I felt incredibly honoured to be in that space. I went downstairs and talked to my husband and went, and of course, being on the where we are, we get privilege rights, and so we were able to listen to it anyway before it's released, and he's watched it, and I think it was just generally just a really nice thing to do. So it was an honour. But I mean, amazing, absolutely incredible work that you and Andy have done. And Andy runs Invisible Childlessness, Invisible CNBC, I think it is, on Twitter, but you can find him on Twitter under our followers there as well for the Full Stop. But both of you have done incredible work and very valuable people in our community.
Yeah, so we did miss you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I had no voice.
We know.
I was so gutted. I really wanted to come along for it, but I was just too rough. I'm curious though, because it's kind of like we have this perception that guys don't, well, I mean, I don't have this perception. I think I used to, but guys don't have emotions, therefore they don't talk about this stuff. So it must feel kind of strange to sit in a place where you're recording it and you know it's going to be listened to by other people.
Yeah. I guess because I've talked about it for so long that it's not so hard for me. But, you know.
Was it for Don and Russ though?
Yeah, well, look, Don and Russ are probably, and there's a few guys in the Clan of Brothers that are fairly open, but there's over 200 men in that group now.
Wow.
And a lot of them just watch. So I get to see the amount of views that each post gets. So I know they're there, they're looking, and but yeah, and I think what that means, what that's testament to the fact that we are not quite ready or have the emotional sophistication to be able to voice how we feel. Because I feel that way sometimes, where I can't exactly tell you how I feel. Because when you get in, I'm very privileged to be part of conversations with other females. But sometimes I can say, no, yeah, that's, I'm having trouble now, but it's that the way that your emotions are, sometimes I don't get, or it's not something that triggers me, it's other things. And so there's no doubt that females are much more eloquent and able to voice how they feel. Something to do with the corpus callosum being 1/3 bigger, apparently. That's the bit that joins both sides of your brain. What's that, Psychology 101, I think? Wow. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so it helps. It's actually growth for me, because together we're all sort of discovering this vocabulary that fits us, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah, it does.
Yeah, completely.
We've gone quiet. What happened there?
We've gone quiet. I'm just thinking about that, and how's the group in terms of? I'm shocked by the 200. I think that's an incredible figure. That caught me up. I wasn't aware that it was that many people, but it is, again, it's kind of that whole thing of having a safe space, because triggers might be different, but they're still triggers, whatever they might be. And the same thing applies as to where you need a space where you can talk about stuff, but actually it doesn't trigger you. You can, even if it's nothing much, it's still a conversation where someone isn't going to come in and say, as a parent, or this, that, or offer some kind of fix. When I think about stuff, oh God, I don't know, like biking groups and things like that we've belonged to, football, stuff like that, you get an awful lot of narrative around family and family days and that definition of the word family. And yeah, you can argue it's, you know, it's a definition that could mean anything, because family is a big word and it isn't necessarily children, but, you know, most people identify with that word as being, you know, a family with a child in it. And there's very few places, I think, like that for men. The Buddhist Centre here does a men's space, but I don't know how trigger-free that is. And as much as I would like to say, I bet it's not, I can't guarantee it. You just don't know, do you? Until you're in it. And then by then it's sort of a bit too late.
I think it's difficult. I mean, a lot of my friends are male. I've had male friends for years. And, you know, Jim and I going through this, the blokes would say, you know, if you want to talk about it, you can. But we never did, you know what I mean? You never had a sit down conversation. And I know I'm female, but I am a bit more laddie, I would say, than your girly girl. So it, you know, I was very grateful for the invitation, but that was never going to happen. You know, that's, even Jim sort of said, no, that's not something I would do. So I think having that space and having 200 guys come in there, albeit some of them are lurking, but they're obviously getting something out of it, aren't they?
Oh, that's right. And that's part of the, I guess, the growth for me is to realise that that's okay. Because they're getting what they need. They know they're in a safe space. That's all they need. And for some, that's all they need. So, yeah, it's taught me quite a bit. Now, while I just remembered, there is a man in our group. Now, I'm not going to say his name because I don't have his okay to do it in this forum. But he has just, he's for him fertility, just walked to Everest Base Camp.
Him.
Yeah.
Yes, following. I followed, and
there you go.
Yeah.
So it's been a great achievement, and so I might have a chat with him. Maybe we can get him on the show one day.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of like a bit of a fangirl. I'm a fangirl of loads.
Oh, not again.
Yeah, sorry, it's embarrassing, isn't it? I live my life through other people. I was like, oh, you've got, you know, that is an incredible achievement. I do know, and I didn't put the connection together. I wasn't sure that what the connection was, but oh my goodness me, isn't that incredible? The connections that all these that we have, that people have in the groups. It's amazing.
And that's, I think that's the strength of our podcast, is that I think we may be the only one that actually has both male. Okay, we're all white and heterosexual, but you know, the only one that has both female and male.
Yeah. Which
I need to be careful, because this whole LGBTQ language I'm open to, but I just don't want to. I don't want to fuck it up. I have to beat that out. Oops.
Do you? Oh, probably, because we get the kind of like the rating on YouTube. They tell us off. You have to do a bleep.
No, don't. We could just have to tick that it's not suitable for children. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I think they need to learn young that these things don't automatically happen, even if that's what they're told in school. Anyway, another digression. That sequenced nicely onto what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We had an admin meeting everyone, which always makes us go, oh God. Anyway, but we like admin, really. And what were we saying? Come on, Smith, get your brains together. What was it?
We were talking
Yes,
about how giving the podcast over to
Diversity.
Other sections of our diverse society.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you've got more words than I have. So you've got the larger cool blah 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 thing, whatever.
A bit of the brain.
Then it's you.
That's two coffees at bloody 8:30 at night. That's what that is.
I had one idea this morning, and that was your lot. And that's all I came up with. But yeah, opening up the podcast. So one of the things that we did last year, and we kind of did it again really a couple of times, was opening up the podcast, and we invited Yvonne to talk to us with her guests, and she curated her guests. We said to Yvonne, here's the podcast, this is what it is, we will be there as the hosts, but you can curate your episode around your themes. And it was all about race in ethnicity and being a woman of colour and all of the judgments that come with being childless, not by choice. And Yvonne is fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Her book is incredible, and I think she's just a brilliant person, and I love her website too. And it was a brilliant experience because we learned alongside. We have also released episodes on aging as well with Kirsty, and that's something that's applicable to everybody. And again, we sort of said to Kirsty, this is the podcast, do what you would like with it, it's fine. And I think that's something that we really, really want to encourage, because the Clan of Brothers is a Facebook group, but of course it's started by Michael. Michael has association with the podcast. We can give it a voice. But there must be other groups out there buried in some social media land, probably one I've never heard of. And we can give a voice to you. So if you're watching that and thinking, that's another episode about men, and actually I think I've got this idea and I'd like to do something, or maybe you know of a group and you can suggest it, then please do that. As long as the theme is childlessness and the people that are part of that is childlessness not by choice as opposed to child-free, which we are not, in the definition of choosing not to have children, to clarify what that means. That's okay. We'll explore that. I think that's really important. We are here to represent everybody, even though, as Michael says, we are three white heterosexual presenters. We represent, we don't speak on behalf of, we would never do that. That's not what we do. Goodness knows, we've all had people speaking and telling us what it's like to be parents, and when we're not parents, and speak on our behalf with fixies. That's not what it is. It's about inviting people into our space to talk for themselves, and we will listen and learn and be supportive with you.
You know what? I'll probably cry in a minute, but that's what I love about doing this podcast, is how much, and I'm going to talk about myself, how much richer it makes me. Like that the episode with Yvonne John and all the women of colour, man, that impacted me in a big way. It really, really did. And look, if you're trans, if you, sorry if I get these terminologies wrong, but bear with me, I'm still learning. But if you're trans, intersexual, gay, lesbian, please, and you feel that we need to represent you, then get in contact with us. If you're someone who suffers from, and I hope I get this right, MRKH, please let us know.
I think there's also things about hidden disabilities as well. Guests will know, people that listen to the podcast, you know, I have a mild, it's quite mild form of dyspraxia. We've had other guests on here with the same. We're again open to that too. I think that's really important as well. There are lots of conversations, I think, around hidden disabilities and visible disabilities, physical disabilities that matter a lot. We don't talk about that enough, and we need to do more on that. I've been probably a bit reticent because I don't particularly like talking. I'm not comfortable about talking about dyspraxia. I'm more comfortable about talking about childlessness, because if you Google dyspraxia, you would think I couldn't get dressed and I don't bathe regularly, and I can't button up clothes. But actually, and also it's disingenuous, because I can do a hell of a lot of things that other people with dyspraxia cannot. I ride a bicycle and I drive a car. I've always driven a car. I passed my test second time, and yeah, I ride a bike, not particularly well, but you have to where I live. It just is. But my balance is bad, and I'm not comfortable talking about it. I ought to do more on that, because, but that's just who I am right now. It's a late diagnosis in my life, and I'm coming to terms with it. But I run a business. I do all right, actually. So sometimes it feels a bit disingenuous when I hear other people have had so many challenges in their life, an awful lot of challenges in their life over this, in employment and handling money, relationships. It's a very, very big thing. Dyspraxia is a big term for a very broad church, I think, as is the word hidden disabilities. But we do need to talk about that sort of thing more, because it does impact on childlessness. I think that probably the diagnosis, I'm riffing here and I'm going off at a tangent a bit, but the diagnosis of dyspraxia was probably one of the things that ended our IVF journey, because I knew something. I knew inherently from when I was at school that struggling with physical education classes, things like that, that there was something wasn't quite 100% right, but I didn't know what it was. And I think I might have mentioned it before, that my mum wrote an article in Mother magazine, which she's still got, and I think the implication was they were going to break my legs because I didn't walk until I was almost 2, or just over 2, I think, before I walked. I don't actually know anything about kind of child milestones, but I understand that's quite late. You kind of disengage, don't you, when you're childless? You sort of think, I don't need to know about milestones, that's not interesting. But it was late, and literally, I think on the eaves of an appointment at the Children's Hospital, I toddled to my father and said, "Oh, thank God for that." And of course, it's not. It's all in here, and it's your connections. But then I always think that neurotypical is just terribly dull. I'd rather be neurodiverse. It's more interesting, mostly. But yeah, there's a whole conversation around that about, does it affect people, childlessness? And it did for me, because I didn't want my child to be like I was. I'm lucky, like you, Sarah. I'm a bit kind of not a girly girl, and I did. I don't know if my mum knows this, and I hope she's not listening to this or watching this, but I did smack the school bully. I gave her a right old belt because she'd actually been awful to my brother, and I went round and gave her a right. Don't do this, anyone. It's not good. But it was that's kind of like, was so mad. I was so angry with her. Anyway, yeah, she got, she happened to be on her own.
But it works.
But it's not
that I'm condoning violence.
Let's not condone it. It's not. I think there is much more. I think words are very good. Language is a very good way. And let's be honest, the Full Stop podcast, we are very good at turning the narrative into something else and making it a different story for different people, and pushing back on those fixes that we get. So, yeah, get in touch. However you identify, whether through LGBTQIA+, whether it's with any form of disability, hidden or otherwise, please.
Could be anything, couldn't it? Stuff that's not even on the radar. Tell us.
Tell us, and we will hand the podcast over to you. We don't literally go, here's a podcast, you've got to learn how to use Zoom.
No,
what we will do is work with you, and all of us will work with you. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, sorry.
By the way, can you do all this other bleep? Anyone hasn't sworn yet. Do we need me to swear to equal this up?
Yeah,
I'm not
go on. You make us feel better.
No, I'm not, and you can't make me. There you go.
I thought that'd be opportunity.
Has to be organic.
Organic swearing.
Organic swearing.
Is that a new term? Organic swearing?
Organic
I think you've invented one. I like it.
Does that mean you make your own up and you sort of?
We could go back. We could do medieval words. We could go back and do medieval words, because I'm nerdy about, obviously, nerdy about design and fonts and things like that. It's my business to be nerdy about them. But one of the things I got recently was a book I picked up in a second-hand shop, and it's all about kind of old words and old swear words and things. It's great. This is really.
Have you got any? Go on, off the top of
I have to go and find them, but I do know I do know that certain words that we go, oh, that's a bleepy word, actually common things, and I obviously can't say the word, but there is the C word
C-bomb.
C-bomb is actually a very, very historic word, really
Yeah.
historic word. If you go
It's
some
English,
streets,
isn't it?
it's, yeah, and some streets have had to rename themselves because they were called Grope Bleep Alley, because actually it was near a brothel. So historically it's a brothel, it's a word associated with brothels. So you kind of imagine there's probably these people that live on some really lovely streets now, and their houses go for like million squid. We don't have any here, there's not a street here that I'm aware of, but someone might correct me, but there are some in certain cities, and certainly London, I'm sure. They've got £1 million houses.
I'd love that.
Actually, they're the old word for their street.
Excuse me, do you realise what you're
associated to a brothel, apparently. So there you are.
My dad would have loved this conversation, because I remember a while back, and this is probably good 10, 15, no, probably 20 years ago. But Dad's written a few books. I think I've said that in the past.
Yes.
And he had this idea of using all of the strange village names in England in a book somehow. So I remember him sitting there with a massive atlas of the UK, and he was just circling all the weird names that,
did he go
he thought,
for?
oh, that's interesting. It never came to fruition, but he would have loved this conversation.
I would love that. We've got Thong down the road. We've got Pratt's Bottom. We've got all sorts.
I have a map on my wall. So I do some work with a company that produces themed maps.
Oh, I think I've got this map. I got it from my other half.
And it's the rude names of
Yes.
Britain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it from my other half. We're gonna do a tour at some point of all these places.
Kenny did. So my husband did a motorbike tour, and they went to places like the Ugly Women's Institute and had to stand outside, and different places. And it was a thing with Backstreet Heroes, which is a biking community, and they do these motorbike tours. And him and his mate, then none of them are ever called their real names, by the way. None of my husband's. When we got married, there were people that were turning up called Big Gassy, Little Gassy, Big Lou, Little Lou, and then there was Bouncy Bomber, and they're never going to show. I don't know who they are. Like, who do I write this invitation out to? Like, what do we do anyway? So and they all went off on this tour with tents and to rude place names, but there's actually a lot. But yeah, it's that same map. I can't think who the company is. They're not a client of mine now. I just set them up with some different things that they needed at the time. But yeah, they've got quite a number of maps, literary maps and things like that as well. And it's a big thing on my wall downstairs. And my mum came round a while ago, and she hadn't been around for a bit because of lockdowns and things. And she got to the front door. She was like, "Oh, that's a nice map," and started to like, "Oh, that's rude." Yeah, because we've got 6 Mile Bottom not far from here, and we're not that far from Ugly either.
Oh, wow.
Essex has got quite a few, but yeah, 6 Mile Bottom. When we were kids and we used to go there, we used to sit in the back of the car going 6 Mile Bottom, like you do. So there you are. There is.
The best I can say is I've been to Iron Knob. There's a place just outside of Whyalla in South Australia called Iron Knob. That's the best I can do.
I like that's good. There ought to be an Australian version then.
Yeah.
No, we would have pinched them all off England, Scotland, and Ireland.
That's true. You probably find some kind of thing.
Because all of our cities, when you look at the map of Australia, all of our cities mostly are, takeoffs from somewhere in the UK. They
are. So anyway, we're digressing. We're riffing.
Oh yeah, we did.
And this is our video. It's quite good. There is another thing. So this video will probably go out in time, I think, for you to take part. I hope it does. Take part in something that's going on with our rest of our stuff, so the CIC, and we need your help with a name. So if you head over to our social media channels and to the website, we're asking you if you can help name the podcast kind of umbrella company, because we can't call it the Full Stop because someone else has taken it. Lots of people have taken the Full Stop, so we can't call ourselves the Full Stop. The podcast will still be called Full Stop, but we need another name for the rest of it. And that is another thing that we need your help with at some point. And the deadline for that, I think, is the 1st of April. So you just need to make sure that you send us an email. But if you do get this and it's after the 1st of April and you have an absolute brainwave, then let us know anyway, because we'd still be interested to hear from the community as to what you think that we should be called.
Yeah, keep it clean though.
Oh yeah. Nothing off the rude maps of Britain, and definitely not 6 Mile Bottom or Iron Knob. No, that wouldn't be good. No, I think we might have trouble with that.
Yeah, probably.
No, old English terminology.
Yeah, don't go back to Old English street name. No, it's terrible. Literally, honestly, the things that I've been up to, and books and things like that. Not good.
Cool.
Brilliant.
I'm dying to Google medieval swear words now, but I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to. No.
You know what they're all going to be? They're all going to be 4 letters, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm going to send you. I'm going to post this map to you. I'm going to find this map and I'm going to send it to you. It feels like it's something that's necessary for all 3 of us to own.
Yeah, so that when Michael comes to the UK, we're
going to road trip.
On tour.
Selfie.
Yeah.
6 Mile Bottom.
Well,
Big
it's
crack.
just up the road. Just up the road.
Did you?
I don't know if there was one called Plumber's Crack.
Yeah. Right, we better stop there.
Yeah.
Stop there.
We probably should.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much for
Thanks,
spending some
everyone.
time with us today. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.